The day the president called me to come back for the second time, first thing the president said to me, "You've been bitching about it for 4 years. You want to come fix it?"
Efforts to secure our borders and to deport dangerous illegal immigrants has never been more in play than they are now. Today's special guest is America's border czar, Tom Homan, the veteran patrol agent and leader the president turned to get the job done. From Ballard Studios in Washington, D.C., an important episode of 13th and Park.
The hard things that are necessary, we either do it or we'll pay the price down the road.
That often is missing in politics.
We have to solve everything.
It's a nightmare.
You and I can differ, but that doesn't mean you and I cannot be friends.
I have faith in the American people.
Those are the facts.
The Illuminati, right there. Aliens could have invaded and nothing would surprise me at this point.
We went from North Korea to M&M. That's a lot, man.
What's in this tea?
Well, Tom, great to have you here on the set at 13th and Park. There are a few things going on in your world right now, aren't there?
To say the least. I'm a busy guy.
You also have one of the most important missions in the world right now. So obviously there's recent news. 16 Iranian nationals were detained at a time that followed the strike on the nuclear sites in Iran. Doesn't this put kind of a very fine point on how dangerous what you're dealing with every day is for every American?
It is. And, the men and women of ICE already have a dangerous job. You add all the rhetoric right now.
Yeah.
Even Democratic congressmen and senators comparing ICE to racists and Nazis. It makes your job even more dangerous because there are a lot of folks out there who don't look at the facts. They just listen to the rhetoric. So it's a dangerous job. But what Americans need to know is the last 4 years under Joe Biden, we had over 2 million gotaways. How many of them came from a country sponsoring terror? So when Trump came in, we locked the border down. Now we're trying to find these people, the national security threats. And we're finding a lot of them, but it's a tough task. We got to keep going at it every day.
When you think about deportations, you go back to President Obama. There were like millions of deportations under, they called him the deporter president, right? So this isn't anything new, and it shouldn't be anything partisan. It should be an American imperative, right, Tom, that we do what we need to do to secure this country.
Absolutely. Keeping our streets and neighborhoods safe should be a nonpartisan issue. And I said for months, I can't believe there's any Democrat council person, mayor, governor, or congressperson that doesn't support making our neighborhoods safer. Mm-hmm. You got some of these governors, they're proud to be a sanctuary state. ICE is prioritized from day one, concentrate on public safety threats and national security threats, and that's what we're doing.
So we just read about the vice mayor of a small California city who was calling on gangs to rise up against ICE agents. What feeds that kind of rhetoric? And what do we need to do to stop that and to get down to the business of enforcing the law?
Well, I think there's a lot of people out there that care about public safety, honestly care about public safety, but they hate Trump more than they love their community. They're making a choice. I'm not a prosecutor, but what she did, I think, is a violation of Title 18 United States Code 373, which is solicitation of crime. She's on video asking criminal gang members to go after ICE. That's plain and simple solicitation. So I know the FBI is looking at it. I hope the FBI asks for prosecution. I think she needs to be prosecuted. I said from day one, you can hate ICE, you can hate the president, you can not support our mission, but you can't cross that line. If you cross that line of impediment, you put hands on an officer, you threaten an officer, we need to give you a set of bracelets. You need to go to jail. We're in a world right now where people think it's okay to threaten federal law enforcement officers when they're simply doing their job.
Right.
They're not making this up. They're enacting the laws enacted by Congress. They're executing final orders of deportation issued by a federal judge. They're not out there just doing this on willy-nilly. They're actually doing the job that they're appropriated for. Congress funds them to do this.
You came from West Carthage, New York. Your dad and granddad served honorably by wearing a badge, as did you. You then became a Border Patrol agent. And I remember reading about, I think it was your first night on the job, when you got your first real taste of what life is like near the border.
My dad later became a magistrate, judge. So troopers came to the house all the time to arraign somebody in the middle of the night. So I was surrounded by law enforcement. And so I always knew I was going to be a cop. So living up on the Canadian border, I see Border Patrol agents once in a while.
Right.
Not a lot of them. Didn't know quite what they did. But I was fishing up there with some other police friends. And the Border Patrol boat come pulling into the dock and started talking. And he said, hey, we're actually giving a test here in a few weeks. I'll take it. And I did. And who knows, 6 months later, I'm in the Border Patrol Academy. I flew from Syracuse to San Ysidro because I was going to work at the Campo station. And the night before, I stayed at a Motel 6 in San Ysidro, right on the border. And I'm standing out there. I was eating my dinner.
KFC, I think it
Fried
was
Chicken.
it, right?
And all of a sudden I hear all this racket.
Yeah.
Helicopters, noise. And what the hell? So I walk on the patio and I'm watching helicopters fly with spotlights, chasing people. I'm watching Border Patrol vehicles all over the place. And at first thought, I looked down and said, what the hell did I do? I went from a small town to this. Next 3 days, I processed in. Next, I'm on an airplane heading to Glencoe, Georgia to go to FLETC and start at Academy. So it was an eye-opener because I didn't quite know what they did, and I quickly found out. I mean, I came from a small town upstate New York. There wasn't even a Mexican restaurant within an hour's drive, right? So it was a total culture change for me.
So you've seen a lot of stuff, right? I mean, of all the experiences, and there are probably too many to count, I'm sure. Is there one that still bothers you to this day that you still kind of visualize and live with?
I got a lot of them. I've seen so much tragedy on there. The one that really changed me, the one that really made me a hardcore border hawk was when I was in Dallas, Texas. We just became ICE. Mm-hmm. We took Customs and Immigration and Naturalization Service and we created ICE. Yep. So I was in Dallas. I was at an International Association of the Chief of Police, ICP. And I was with a mentor of mine named Bob Wallace. We're there to give a speech and tell them what this new agency, Immigration Customs Enforcement, is. And during the presentation, I get a call from ICE headquarters saying there's a tragedy in Victoria, Texas. They wanted me down there right away because the director of ICE at the time was Michael Garcia. He knew I spent most of my career on alien smuggling. So I flew down on an Air Marine to Victoria, Texas. We landed and I got transported to the crime scene. And, here I am, a kid grew up in a small town upstate New York. Now I'm looking at, 19 dead people baked to death in that truck. I had 17 on scene. 2 were already to the emergency room, see if they can save them. Of course, they didn't. They died. But when I got up on the stool and I looked in the back of the tractor trailer, I see all these dead people. Most of them in their underwear because they're trying to get some relief from the heat. And I keyed on a 5-year-old little boy. I didn't know he was 5 at the time, but he was a little boy. What bothered me, he was in his underwear. And it was the same underwear that my little boy had. I had a 5-year-old son at the time. So it just hit me that, why did he have to suffer and die like this? Why is my son so lucky? So when we processed the crime scene and the photographers taking pictures, I told them I didn't want to process the little boy to last. I couldn't handle it because it just affected me that much. And during the investigation from the other surviving witnesses, they said the little boy begged his dad to save him. The little boy said, I don't want to die, Daddy. Wow. It's just terrible when you think about a 5-year-old boy that knows he's dying and begging not to die. His father can't help because his father got him into this position. So what's his father going through knowing they're dying and he's the reason they're in the back of this tractor trailer? We quickly got 14 people all arrested. They all end up going to prison, thank God. I wish they would have spent the rest of their life there. But that changed me. I didn't sleep for the first 3 or 4 nights. I couldn't sleep. So after the end of the investigation, I actually, I'm not ashamed to say it, I sought help because it affected me that much. And so when people say, well, why do you get so emotional on TV? Why do you get so emotional when you're yelling at Congress? Because if they've seen what I've seen, the tragedies, we can prevent that. And that's why I'm so excited to come back. I knew under Biden administration, I say this all the time, for 4 years, I woke up every morning pissed off because I knew children are going to die tonight. Fentanyl is going to come across to kill Americans. Cartels are making billions of dollars. And I knew when you open that border up, all these things are going to happen. So I was excited to come back to president. Second time I unretired. My wife's still a little pissed off about it. I came back because I knew after the election, after he won, we started working right then. We didn't wait till January 20th. I started working with a lot of brilliant minds on how can we fix this quickly. Here's what people need to know. Illegal immigration on the border right now is down like 96%. So when 96% less people are coming, how many children aren't dying? How many pounds of fentanyl isn't getting the country? Fentanyl seizures is down over half. So how many Americans aren't dying? How many migrants aren't dying? Under Joe Biden, approximately 4,000 illegal aliens died making that journey. Historic record. 250,000 Americans died from fentanyl. Historic record. President Trump's policies are saving thousands of lives every week.
Isn't this where we are confused about the line between compassion and common sense?
Secure border saves lives. No one can argue that.
That was your book.
Yeah, and that's why I named it like that, because I knew secure border saves lives. We proved it under Trump 45. We're proving it even bigger in Trump 47. Any Democrat senator or congressman I ever have a discussion with, I always ask them that question. They can't answer me. What is the downside on a secure border? What's the downside in less drugs coming across to kill Americans? What's the downside in less sex trafficking of women and children? What's the downside in taking billions of dollars out of the cartels' hands, who do very terrible things? There's no downside in secure border. It should be a nonpartisan issue.
The fundamental idea of the identity and security of any nation I think, begins at the border. If there is no border, as you've said before, they really have no country.
And you would think what's happening right now with Iran and what we're dealing with right now, and the 2 million gotaways, you would think even the Democrats would sit back and had any common sense of, wow, we screwed up. Now we're dealing with this national security vulnerability.
Has any Democrat you've ever spoken with admitted they should have done differently, they should have done better? Or is that just basically a blanket statement, hey, we did what we had to do, they ignore the numbers? You have to assume President Biden must have known the numbers, but we certainly weren't hearing that in America.
This was not mismanagement. It was not incompetence. This was by design. President Biden ran on his campaign to end ICE detention, to have a moratorium on deportations. When I saw his campaign do that, I wrote an op-ed for FoxNews.com. I think it was 6 months before the actual election. I said, if he wins, we lose the border. People always ask, why would he open the border like that? Why did Mayorkas and all these guys collaborate on open border?
What's the answer?
And I said, I don't know for sure, but they obviously saw a future political benefit from letting millions of people in this country obviously think they're future Democratic voters. But before they even get to the chance to vote, when Biden signed over 90 executive orders, killing everything we created to give us the most secure border ever, he also overturned the Trump census rule, which means the millions of these illegal aliens that end up in sanctuary cities, they'll be counted in the next census, which equals what? Which is going to result in more House seats for the Dems. I truly believe they sold this country's national security out for future political power. There is no other reason. No one can give me a justification why you would do that.
How serious are the cartels as a threat to America today versus even 2 years ago?
I remember at the RNC, I gave a speech before the election. I said that President Trump would designate them terrorist organizations because they've killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world combined.
Doesn't that fit the very classic definition of terrorism?
They've killed thousands of journalists, reporters. They've killed thousands of judges and prosecutors. I said that. And after I said that, that's when the death threats started coming my way. Because I said, President Trump's going to designate you terrorists and going to wipe you off the face of the earth. And now President Trump did designate him terrorists, which is the right thing to do. I don't care what people think about him. He knows the border. He knows national security. I've worked for 6 presidents. No one does it better than his guy. When Joe Biden won the election, no one was more happy than the cartels because they knew we were back in business.
You know what really woke a lot of Americans up about the story about the Iranians that were just detained and arrested is where they were found. You would expect, okay, maybe Texas and California. No, you're talking about Colorado, Mississippi, Alabama, Missouri, Minnesota. These are more of the heartland states in America. And the fact that you're finding these people here gives rise to all the things we've heard for years and you've dealt with, this idea of like sleeper cells and the real threats that are already here in America because we didn't enforce a secure border.
You're right. There's sleeper cells all over the country. How many? I don't know. I know the FBI is on this as much as they can, but I'm not going to fool anybody. 2 million plus gotaways. We're never going to find all of them. I don't know how we do it. We don't know who they are. We're out there looking really hard. We're arresting quite a few, but to find all 2 million is a hell of a task. I hope we're successful, but we're looking for a needle in a haystack. And it's amazing how the law enforcement components are coming up with these arrests so quickly and so many. God bless them. They're good.
Aren't you tempted when you are talking to people in elective life who are not on board with this to ask them, well, if you don't want us to enforce all the laws, what other laws do you want us not to enforce? Laws that, by the way, you, the Congress, have passed. So we're trying to do what you supposedly want us to do, but yet you're saying, oh, I know what we said, but hey, kind of do a little.
I ask that question a lot. Look, I get it. Immigration enforcement has always been controversial. I have a heart. I'm human. And that's why I say ICE officers, they don't hang their heart on a hook every day they come to work. They're mothers and fathers too. Yeah. They've seen a lot of terrible things in their career. When the crisis was happening during Biden administration, they had all these children come across. There's Border Patrol agents who brought toys from their own kids to the Border Patrol facilities so these migrant kids had something to play with. Even back in my day, you know how many lunches I packed lunch when I was on Border Patrol that I didn't eat? I gave it to the illegal alien I found that hasn't eaten in 3 days. Border Patrol agents do that all the time. You never hear about it. Border Patrol agents save thousands of lives every year, pulling people out of the river, finding people in the desert. No one gives them credit for that. How many lives has ICE saved? I mean, I always say, one testimony I had where I lost it with a congressman out of Chicago, he said, I didn't care about dying children because they weren't the color of my children. I mean, how dare he? Do you know how many lives Tom Homan has saved through his career? ICE officers, Border Patrol officers save thousands of lives every year. They're not the mean, racist, white nationalists you claim they are. They're American patriots who have a heart beating in their chest too. And I'm sick and tired of attacking them right now. Assault on ICE officers up over 500%. And it makes me sick because throughout my career, I have buried Border Patrol agents. I have buried ICE agents that died doing the very thing I told them to do. That's something I want to live with the rest of my life.
Do you think Americans would have a different perspective on all this if they could live in the shoes of an ICE agent for one day?
Absolutely. Understand who these people are. Understand they go home every day with whatever hatred they dealt with that day, whatever sad thing they saw that day. They take it home and live with it. I could sit here and tell you the tragedies I've seen. It would take us 3 hours. Illegal immigration is not a victimless crime. People see illegal immigration, they're just here for a better life. They're going to send money home. But you don't understand how the cartels deal with illegal immigration, how they abuse these people, how many people die making that journey. The cartels don't care. The last administration, over 500,000 children were smuggled in this country, separated from their families, put in the hands of criminal cartels to be smuggled in the country. If I leave my child in a car while I go to get groceries, I'll get arrested. But your last administration couldn't locate 300,000 of them. Why is anybody talking about that? You want to call ICE heartless, but you want to give the last administration a pass for opening the border up. 500,000 kids smuggled in this country, and we can't find them. We're out there right now trying to save them. We found thousands of them, thousands. And many of them are safety and security. They're with family members. Some aren't. Some are in sex trafficking. Some are in forced labor trafficking. But we're the bad guys. And for all these Democrats on Hill and want to scream and yell about Trump and what ICE is doing right now, where were you when 300,000 children can't be found that you released to unvetted sponsors? Where were you then? Silence. But all of a sudden, we're the bad guys.
This is one of the untold stories in America that if America really understood, would change a lot of public attitudes. I know also that you and your family, have done this at great sacrifice. There have been recent reports about, the threats that are coming your way, right? You live with that every day. To do what you do and to do it with your head high and with a knowledge of what the bottom line consequences are for not doing it. Does that drive you through the normal day-to-day?
We're saving lives every day.
Yeah.
We're saving lives every day. We got the most secure border in the history of the nation right now. We did that in 7 weeks. 7 weeks. I remember President Trump first asked how long it's going to take. It's 120 days.
Well, in the fall of 22, I think you were on Fox saying that you'd never seen it this bad.
The day the president called me to come back for the second time, my phone was sitting on the table, and all of a sudden it started ringing, and it says, POTUS. My wife says, oh, God.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go again. So I took the phone call aside, and the first thing the president said to me, you've been bitching about it for 4 years. You want to come fix it?
There we go.
How do you say no? With the tragedies I've seen in my lifetime, things I sleep with every night, some of those things I still have nightmares about. Knowing the great work we could do, the lives we could save, I didn't hesitate. So I came back a second time. So how do I deal with the threats? They are what they are. You want some, come get some, because I'm not going to stop. I work for the greatest president of my lifetime. It's an honor to work for this president. And here's what I want your listeners to do. Call your congressman, call your senator, tell them to get off their butts and pass the big, beautiful bill. We want to arrest these national security threats. We got over 20 million illegal aliens in this country right now. Mm-hmm. We got less than 5,000 deportation officers. Pass that bill. Give us the agents we need to find more of the bad guy. We need beds. We need officers. We need contractors to do work that ICE agents shouldn't have to do. Badge and gun should be on the street, not sitting doing keystrokes. Pass the big, beautiful bill, and let's finish the job we started. We need that bill passed. So call your congressman, call your senator, tell them to stop playing games, get this done.
Tom, thank you very much for spending time with us today and for all the times that you go on shows like this to get the message out. I mean, you not only don't shy away from it, you seek it for a reason. That information kind of breeds wisdom. And without that information, people can go for the shorthand, which so often takes us so completely off our game and off mission. And the fact that you get out there every day trying to tell as many people as you possibly can what's really going on is a public service that not only we appreciate, but is literally, as you said many times in this interview, saving lives.
I'm not afraid of anybody on any show. I've done a lot of hate shows. I actually prefer them. I like the conflict and the argument, and they can't win the argument.
Right.
I'm not trying to sound cocky. I've been doing this since 1984. I've worked for 6 presidents. I've seen hundreds of policies come and go. I've seen what works, what don't. There's no show that's going to catch me in the corner and outdo me on this. They're not going to outborder me. And so I'll go on any show. Lovers or haters, doesn't matter. Because as you said, the American people need to hear the truth. You may not agree with me at the end of the show, but you heard my side, which means makes a difference.
Tom Homan, Godspeed.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.